Hello everyone, today I want to talk about some of the spending habits that make a founder happy. The premise of this video is when you are a founder and you become sufficiently financially independent, what kind of things make you happy, what kind of things don't make you happy. And I will list out a list of things that make me happy as a solo founder. Being a solo founder, the things I've realized, the things that make me happy are leverage and health. And that's leverage in health or leverage in business, and then the health as an independent variable. The number one thing that makes me happy is having some sort of household assistant, aka a cleaner or a nanny-like person. My parents moved back to China last year. I don't have a family in the States anymore. And as such, I was very spoiled where my parents took care of a lot of my living kind of thing. We don't live together, but they took care of my household logistics. And when my parents left for China, I have two options. One is I can do all the laundry, I can cook, basically do all my bed sheets, everything around the house, cleaning, vacuuming, deep cleaning, anything by myself. Or I hire a household assistant. And having a household assistant really simplifies everything. I love coming back to the house clean. It's one of those things that brings me a lot of joy, seeing the house being spotless. And you could say, do you not know how to do laundry? Yes, I do. I've done laundry many, many times, but having someone to do my laundry is like light and day. In the level of happiness that gets increased when you have someone that does my household chores. This is interesting because I always thought wanting a household assistant can be perceived as me being lazy. And I have two options. I can admit that I am lazy, or I have a second option of like, hey, that's leverage. I think I can choose both option 1 and 2. Like, I am totally okay admitting that I'm lazy. Let's take another example of like, we have a dog and the dog belongs to my parents. So I hang out with the dog for like a couple months before I send the dog back to China. I have two options of sending them back to China. One is use a third party that is very professional, knows how to do things, or option 2, which is I send them back to China with me. And I end up choosing option 1. And so some people say, wow, that's so cruel. You don't love your dog because, like you're not with them and so on. And to my opinion, I'm like, I love my dog, but I'm just clumsy. I'll get stressed if the dog is with me and I don't know how to operate this thing. And sure enough, I chose option 1, which is having a professional do it. And it was like literally the best decision I ever made. Couple reasons. One is like, for example, when that person comes to pick up the dog, they have to send it through cargo. They put ice in the water tray as opposed to water. So like, that's so genius. I would never know that if I were to do it by myself, right? So, and the dog is in the cargo anyway. And I need to have a layover at some place on the way back to China. And as such, like, am I gonna get the dog out of the cargo and live in the hotel? Makes no sense. So household assistant and just hiring a professional to simplify my life is by far one of the best things that makes me as a solo founder happy. Happiness is a lot of times reducing the friction that comes out in your life. And in my opinion, that is a money well spent. The second thing, which is related to household assistant, is having some kind of executive assistant at work. And that is to filter all the emails, do all the logistics, respond to certain emails, take care of all the little things, and then just escalate to me the things that need attention. I've never really done it until like last year, and it's been light and day. I also see a lot of our customers have an executive assistant, and I'm like, wow, you guys are so lazy. Well, that allows some of the most important things slip. And in my opinion, it wasn't the case. And even if some important things do slip, the pros outweigh the cons because you want to create enough leverage that your time can be spent on something more important. And then before I get to the third part, there's a very interesting lesson here. I used to think that when you have so much money, you couldn't really spend all of it. And I still think that's true. But I do know that there are sufficient things for you to spend so that the more money is always almost better. Yes, so you hear it from here that more money is almost always better because things add up. Even if you like pretty frugal like I am, things just add up. The third one is fitness coach. I talked to my fitness coach a lot back in the day, and now I don't even talk to him all that much. And the fitness coach I use is the same fitness coach that is the Die With Zero author uses, apparently. I never actually met him in person. I only see him on Zoom. He lives in California. I live in Seattle. But having a fitness coach, which costs about $5,000-$6,000 a year, is almost like a statement that you care about your health. I did a video a long time ago about that in entrepreneurship, you can create systems that end up giving you leverage. And at some point, the machine just keep working. And with enough leverage, the differences between company A and company B just become dramatically different. But the human body is almost created in a fair way that unless you keep working on your human body, you can never be that much more drastic than the other person. Whereas with machines, you can just like perfect it and then just let it run. And then the difference became bigger and bigger. But with the human body, you almost have to wake up every single day and conquer yourself for that day. And you can't just like slack off. If you slack off, your muscles atrophy and you have to start all over again. So that's kind of like the awesome equalizer in health, because you can't just like do it once and then really separate yourself out. You have to keep working at it. That means you have to keep doing it every day. Having a fitness coach, in my opinion, was the best things I spent. As you can see, these are like the rich people's spending habits that initially you're like, that makes no sense. Why would I ever spend money on that? All they do is kind of force you to send photos of what you eat to the fitness coach. And no, why can't you be more disciplined yourself and do it yourself? And to that, I will say it worked. So that's number 3. Number 4 is LASIK. I have a LASIK surgery. So I used to wear contacts and I used to wear glasses. And one of the things I hate about glasses is that I used to travel a lot. And on the airplane, I don't want to put on my contacts. So I wear these glasses. But then the glasses, I'd like to take a nap and I like to put my eye masks on during the plane. To put on the eye mask means I need to take off the glasses. And so I put the glasses somewhere, in the plane tray, and it becomes foggy. And it's just a lot like when I land, I need to pull on my contact lenses in order to attend a conference. When I land in the hotel, I need to swap out, and sometimes I forgot to bring my contact solutions. I need to make an unnecessary trip to some grocery shop or the hotel lobby. And it was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of unnecessary trips. Again, going back to leverage, around 2020 or 2021, I had a LASIK surgery. And people tell me like, don't do it because what if there's a chance that your eyes will become blind? And that's what I will say. A lot of times you do just have to take a plunge. The result out of it is like one of the most transformative things. I throw away all my contact lenses now. I throw away all my contact solutions. I mean, it's been 6 years since I had the LASIK. And they also say, well, if you do the LASIK now, it will become worse by your 60s. So the best time to do it is in your 40s. That's total BS. Just go do it. Enjoy the life now. LASIK is awesome, especially if you don't want to have this burden of contact lenses. Now, some people might say you might have dry eyes and this could have negative consequences. I just got lucky, I guess. I never had that problem. So, knock on wood. It's almost like a microcosm or manifestation of an example of focus on your health that really brings you happiness. Number 5 is paying for my parents' health. As I mentioned, my parents went back to China last year. Now, we don't have any political connections in China, so they don't have the best health insurance. And because they have not been in China for so long, they don't have health insurance. They also don't qualify for the state health insurance because they haven't worked in China in a long time. And so without political connections, it's really hard to find quick specialty doctors. So then the question is, how do I solve this problem with money? What I did is I pay for their visits to a private hospital called Hemujia in China. It's called United Family Healthcare in China. It's like the best private hospital system in China where a lot of the celebrities and kind of expats go. You might say that's like ridiculous. You're paying without insurance, you're paying like ridiculous amount for health. And to me, I will say that's worth it. That's actually one of the things that makes me the happiest. Because for me, if anything happened to them, it will have a huge negative consequence on my mental health. Even if you think of it from like a selfish perspective, I just want them to be healthy. And if anything goes wrong, I feel like I have done everything I can to make it fault tolerant, if that makes sense. That's a very selfish perspective. But, from the other side, that's the least I can do. It's one of the things that makes me very happy. And then the next 2 ones are literally just luxuries. So one of them is about transportation. I think my money spent on having a Tesla is well worth the money. I got it actually in 2019, long time ago, and I got the 2018 Tesla. So I don't even have the latest Tesla. So at the time, it was one of the earlier purchases, and it's also one of the earlier kind of luxury upgrades in my life. The reason was not that I want to show off. The reason is more that I want leverage. I spent quite a bit of time in the car, driving everywhere. The comfort makes a difference. Like the previous car, which is a good car, it just doesn't feel it's comfortable for my back, for my lower back, for my upper back, for everything. Also, like Seattle roads are very hilly. So I remember driving in downtown and there's like this hill, right? And so you stop here, but then you have to keep pressing the brake for the car to not slide back. And then sometimes when you go up, especially in the winter time, it just starts going backwards before it goes up. Like it's crazy. I'm sure a lot of you know. And so what I have to do is I have to use one foot to press the brake and then the other foot to press the gas so that it doesn't slide backwards. Well, with Tesla, you push it down enough so that it's stationary. Like it's all these little things. I don't have to get an oil change. It's these things that really make a difference in the day-to-day. Money can buy happiness, but it buys a bunch of breadcrumbs of happiness, and that's well worth it. And the last one is a lie flat business class. So when you are able to travel business class, lie flat, especially on international flights, it's well worth the money. I hate flying. When I get off the plane, I just feel like really bad. And so even though it's a huge splurge to like, how bad can 48 hours be? How bad can 24 hours be? And so on and so forth. But it's a combination of health, of making comfortable, and that might be the last one because it's not that necessary. I understand, but it is really cool. So to summarize, household assistant, things that can offset the things that you don't want to spend time on, having an executive assistant in business, having a fitness coach, LASIK surgery, pains for parents' health, Tesla for transportation, and lie flat business class. And then if I have to add anything there, it will be like spending money on hobbies. So that's, tennis, golf, but spending money on a cool hobby that you can do on your own or you can do with friends. It's worth it. This is why I say spending creeps up on you. One way to splurge the money is to buy like a $10 million house with an $8 million mortgage. And that's like $60,000, $80,000 of mortgage every month. That's one way to spend your money. The other way is to just live in a normal house or rent, pay, like $3,000, $4,000 for the rent, that's like super low compared to people who live in New York, but high enough for people who live everywhere else in the world. But even if you choose the normal 1-bedroom, normal 2-bedroom, normal eating habits, normal day-to-day, a typical budget is like, $5,000 for a very nice living condition, $3,000 for eating and groceries and so on, maybe $4,000. And then another $5,000. So $15,000 to $20,000 a month is a very good life, but lifestyle still creeps up on you. There's never really enough money to spend nicely. And you might say, well, the good news is that as long as you're not buying a yacht or a jet or so on, like 15, 20,000 is a good life. I might do a separate video on that. And so that's why there is a saying for entrepreneurs that it's not to really invest your money into stock market and trying to make money. Your business should make you the most money in the long run. Otherwise, you shouldn't be working on it. You should put all your cash into just a treasury account or a high yield savings account. So the idea is to save up to $5 million in your bank account before you put any money into stocks. $5 million at a 3-4% interest rate is like $200K post-tax money. And so that's exactly sufficient to live a okay lifestyle. Now, if you have a much larger house and so on and so forth, that's going to be more. But it is a wise statement to say have $5 million of liquid cash just sitting around. That's like earning some stupid interest rate. And you might say that's the most terrible financial advice I've ever heard. Trust me, I also agree with you 5 years ago. Again, all these financial advices depends on your circumstances. For a particular circumstance where your business is doing well and your net worth depends on that business, it's not even about the money anymore. Because if it were to be about the money, then I should have just sold my company and chill out, right? So at some point, it's not about the money anymore. And at that point, having cash in hands and not trying to make some random gains in the stock market is actually the more wise decision. So every financial advice has a prerequisite. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that makes sense and see you next time. Bye-bye.